rubber tire companies. The tire companies were behind the other ones that decommissioned the streetcars. So they rubber tires are yeah. Now what?
Oh, did he? Summer, I wear that one in the winter where the two cars off.
They had what's on. There was no smoke or anything with them. They should have kept it, but they didn't.
No, I remember those. I lived in Vancouver, BC for a while, and they still have them. They kept them there.
I think they turned them down.
Yeah, they do. They brought them back.
But that's another mistake they made.
Yeah.
By what?
He's my cross. He's my cross. He made me famous. Yeah, he made me famous. We should have run for mayor when he fought. We've always said.
That's Marvin. That's me.
I'm sorry?
I'm Marvin.
Hi, Marvin. How are you? Dick Cinevic, Marvin.
Hello, Dick. How are you?
Yeah. Played all the ball. Heavy hitter. Long ball hitter.
Yeah. That's,
He got a base hit or he struck out. He was swinging. He never took the fourth third strike. One thing time that Pat any person remembers when I struck out.
That's when you choke the Up the bat handle and hope you make contact.
That's right. Choke up a little bit.
Absolutely. You say take two and hit the left.
Tell you with baseball nowadays, the Mariners situation, they early in the year they were so pitiful I hated it and admit that I knew baseball. Late,
No, it's
the pitching is still different. 3 nights ago, they beat the Yankees in 12 innings. Last night,
his job sweeping the stands or helping Rocky cut the grass or whatever, and then in the afternoon we played ball on the diamond or in the outfield, and then we'd go home, have dinner, and come back for the ball game.
You wouldn't have to pay to get in, would you? Or no?
No.
your worst. If it didn't work, you caught a foul ball. You went over and saw the carnage. They got the ball.
Yeah, and then on the night that it was damp, why Rocky had put out a call to cover the field with canvas, so we'd get a quarter for showing up the full canvas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Was there a phone tree? Would he call the houses or?
No, he just was kind of standing order. Whoever's there, show up.
Rocky famous saying, if it's dark down the canyon, no game will be.
Yeah, or we're going to get rain. You
That's
know?
like that. Let's go. Get a kick out of this one. Jim Turner. There was the manager of the Beavers at the time. And he said, where's Lisco? He's out here. And the guy says, Lisco didn't take any shower. So he's in the pit. He could go get him yourself because he just about finished taking a shower. So Turner comes in and says, Lisco, get out of there and put the uniform.
No, I don't.
Turner,
I built my
starts
own.
down the canyon. There won't be any ball games tonight. I'm leaving. And that's
Was he right?
he was right. And Turner went up to manage the Yankees in the big league.
Yeah.
He said Jim is comfort.
No.
See that canyon, you can't quite see it, but it's just right of the edge of the picture. There's a canyon, you look right up there, and that tells you what the weather's going to be.
No relation. And there was another Turner that was the
Okay, guys, we're going to begin. Other people may join us in a little bit. This is going to be really informal and really fun. My name's Tim Hills, for those of you who don't know me, and I work for McMenamins. And this is one of my favorite things to get to do, is to gather with the old Bond Street folks who recall going there or played there, and it's great fun and a lot of great stories and great friends. So I have some slides we're going to go through. And I might say a few things, but mainly I want you guys to talk about what comes up as you see it, okay? And we'll just have fun with it. So everyone's been talking about this shot. This shot always grabs me because for some reason, even though color film was out for a long time, this is one of 2 color photos that I've ever seen of Bond Street, and I don't know why. But it's a fun one, and it was taken almost at the end of Bond Street era in 1955.
Tim, let me tell you a story about that smoke.
Yeah.
Herm Rich was playing center field.
Louder, John. Louder.
Herm Rich was playing center field.
You guys should come down here.
Yeah, come on down closer. And a guy by the name of, can't think of his name now, he played for Oakland. Oakland was playing Portland. And Eddie Basinski tells this story. He was playing second base. And Vern Rapp, that's the guy's name. Vern Rapp, I don't know if you remember. Earl Rapp. I don't know if you remember it. But anyway, he hit a line shot over Eddie Basinski's head, and it was really hit. And it was going, and Eddie knew it was out of the ballpark because he could tell by the velocity. And all of a sudden, the foundry belches smoke up, and it comes in over the field. And Herm Rich comes out of the smoke with a ball in his glove.
Oh, right.
And the umpire called him out.
And then when he's running in,
2 weeks later, Portland's down in Oakland playing, and Basinski's talking to Earl Rapp, and he says, "You know that ball you hit in Portland the other night? He says, you really hit that. Didn't you think it was out?" He says, "Yeah, I thought sure it was out." He says, "Well, it was."
that's a great story.
I love it.
And a true story.
And it's a true story, yeah.
And they described it as like orange smoke coming out of Esco too, right?
Right.
Herb Rich carried a ball in the back pocket of his ball uniform just in the event that happened.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the inning, when he's running past Basinski, Eddie looked at Herm and said, "But that ball was out of here." And Herm said, "It sure was."
Well, you can say what's right. Rocky Benevento was the guy that says anytime that the clouds come up and they go by Montgomery Ward going down to the Giles Lake area, you figure that there's no ball game tonight. And Rocky would always say, if it's dark down the canyon, no ball game tonight. And about the truth is when Ad Liska was pitching the ball game, and it was very dark. Liska goes in and takes a shower, and Jim Turner, who was the manager of the Beavers at that time, eventually went up to the Yankees. He said, "Where's Liska?" "He's in taking a shower." "Go get him and tell him to get out of here." And the guy says, "No, you go get him. He's in the shower just about ready to get out of here." So Turner comes in and says, "Liska, what the hell are you doing?" He said, "I'm finishing up my shower. I'm going to go down and take my wife down to the coast." He said, You're going to get out of here. You're supposed to be pitching." He says, "There's no game tonight. See you later, coach."
And he was right.
And he was right.
So I was noticing in this photo there's quite a few patches on the grandstand seats there. You see that on the roof?
Oh, yeah.
Where? Right in the
roof.
foreground? Yeah, see? Right in the
Well, if
foreground.
there are any baseballs up there.
You know, move it. And he had a bucket. And he put the fire out. He did it.
That sounds like it too.
Yeah, that's it. They had these buckets all over the ballpark.
Yeah. Water full of water. Right?
Yeah. That's right. All right.
Yeah.
Ms. Pesky.
Hey, Chuck.
You know the great Benevento.
This is.
Every Friday night was a freebie, you know.
Oh, is
that
that right?
whole gang. That's right, Mark.
You betcha. Yeah.
Speaking
there you
of
go.
the Not
Big and not whole
I've
gang.
seen that. Yeah. I love
Okay,
that
does anybody
picture.
want to talk about this?
Go ahead, Dickie.
You want to talk about it, Ben?
Yeah. You go ahead. You do it. You got the story.
All right. The kids are lined up, and actually they got it as a photo for what they call knothole gang, but you couldn't see the inside of the ballpark.
That's right.
Because this was on the outside of the bleachers over in left field.
That's so it's a posed picture. Right?
Yeah.
It's a posed picture.
For
But
the post picture, that's right.
it's a classic because it's.
Oh,
I
it's a
love
classic picture.
Yeah.
Really classic. It tells the story.
And
What the kids
that
did.
grew up in the neighborhood and how they ever got that one kid up there.
Bobby Olson's in here somewhere.
Yeah, he's the one who
Is he
told me
Bobby
that story.
in there?
Yeah,
he
Bobby
is.
Olson's
Is he
in
the guy
here.
down on his knees?
I don't know.
I think it's the guy down on
I
his
think
knees.
it is, and that's his
He was
sister.
gonna try to be here today.
Yeah, I saw him 2 days ago.
But,
Yeah, he was telling me the story that the photographer came along and just rounded up these kids, and
Yeah.
Bob just happened to be right around
I
there.
think that's a good one right
Yeah,
there.
that one hanging on there.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
That is a. It tells a story. Good
No, it
story.
is.
So, was there any place at the park that you could watch the game from outside the?
Maybe right field bleacher. I mean, not the bleachers, but the right field fence.
The
You
right
could-
field
there's a little
fence is-
path, a little area there. You could
Between
probably-
between the foundry and the fence, there was a path that went
That's
through.
correct,
That's
John.
where we crawled over the fence to get
And
in.
people used to take that board, and then Dad got tired of nailing it up every day, so he said, "The hell with it." He told the guys, "From now on, it's this board right here, and just when you get through, put it back."
I went through there one night.
Well, so Pete Ward used to do that all the time.
Two other guys. We went through there, and you wind your way back down underneath the left field bleachers. And there was a
Exactly.
hole in the chicken wire fence between the grandstands and the left field bleachers. You crawl through there, and then you come back up, and you walk off and go toward the right field and sit in general admission. They caught us going through the hole, and they took us in.
And the office built up
Yeah,
here.
yeah, and that was and it was the other guy with a hat, always wore a hat. Anyway, took us
Chester.
on, sat us in there, and we sat. The three of us sat there. I think I was in the 8th grade. And we sat there, and finally he came in, and this policeman had taken us in and just left us there. But he came in and he said, "Okay, you guys snuck in tonight, huh?" He says. Then he hollers out the front office, says, "Okay, take care of them." They took us up and put us in box seats. And never said another
Who
word.
did that?
But we never tried to go in again.
Fantastic.
That's
Who
a
put
great
you?
story.
Who put you in the box seats?
I've got the
cop?
picture. Earl. And I've got the picture of the guy who did it.
All right.
The general manager. Garbarino wasn't there.
Garbarino or Bill
Mulligan?
No, it was before them.
Before Mulligan.
Yeah. And maybe I've got the name at home.
Let's see. Okay.
How did you get the job? How did anyone get the job to be bat boy or clubhouse boy?
Rocky took care of all that. He was our surrogate father.
But it seems like they all came from the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't know how lucky we were. We didn't know how good it was.
How'd you get your job, Stan? Yeah.
Where is it? Dick Cinevic.
Okay. How do you guys get your jobs as bat boy and so on?
I didn't understand who he was.
Right.
He wants to know who you are,
Yeah.
so speak up. So.
This Chuck. I just want
Charnquist.
Huh?
He does the work for the guys from the old days. Chuck Charnquist. You'll see him if you watch the ball games on TV. You'll see him sitting courtside working for the Trailblazers. All right, that's enough about the Trailblazers.
I hear about these guys. But anyway, Rocky Benevento arranged for all those jobs. He was the hiring guy for all those jobs at that time.
Except the pay wasn't too good, was it, John?
No,
Was there any
except in 1945 they won the pennant.
Oh, you get a piece of the action
Marv
there.
Owen was here.
Yeah.
I was clubhouse boy at that time. Hey, Dick. And they won the pennant. That was a heck of a year. You guys remember that? That was fun.
So are you saying you got some money because of that?
What's that?
Are you saying you got some money because of the pennant?
Yeah, we got a little bit of a
Did you
bonus,
really?
but they cut us
Have
the
you
ball
got one of
players.
these? You got one of these on the slide?
Oh, not on the slide, no.
Go to John and Chuck.
Let me tell you a little bit of a story about economics at that time. My brother and I up there and I were clubhouse boys for the Portland Beavers. And as you all know, they all came home for a 2-week homestand. And the club had 25 ball players. And they each paid us $2 a piece per week to keep the clubhouse clean, shine their shoes, dry their clothes, so on. All right.
How'd you
so that
dry
was
them? How'd you dry them? We had no dryers. How'd you dry them?
good. We hung them up on racks.
That's right.
And
Outside.
cleaned the showers, and
Outside.
we did all that dirty work. And of course, that means we made $50 a week and $100 for a 2-week homestand. My brother and I, we split it. My dad at that time was working in a laborer's job down on the waterfront, and he was only making $100 a month. So we were making as much money in 2 weeks as he did in a month working as a laborer on the waterfront.
I remember I asked Stan Bozich that question, how you became a bat boy or a clubhouse boy, and he said, well, first of all, you started parking cars. That was the first move.
He did.
Yeah, and then you kind of
Get up and speak about how you and your brother parked that great big,
I know.
that great big automobile. I'll take that from you so Dickie doesn't lose it. Go ahead. But Dick Carney
Yeah,
and his
tell us
brother
about
Bob.
that.
In those years, you have to remember that I had five brothers. My twin brother and I and another brother, my dad rented an empty lot. And we got a sledgehammer and broke the curb and made a driveway into it. And later on, my dad actually bought the lot. But in those days, didn't have to pay much for it, Depression days. It was just kitty corner in front of the ballpark, right on 24th and Vaughn. Turned out to be valuable property years went by. But we used to park cars there. I think the most we got was 2 bits for a car. But we had some customers who would come. We were on 14 years of age at that time with their great big 16-cylinder Cadillacs. Go look at the driveway and they'd say, "You guys park them." So my first learning how to drive was 16-cylinder in a parking lot. But we did that. We used to have fun with it. You see these baseball games now where they're virtually giving away baseball. But in those days, the ballpark wanted the balls back, and they didn't give away baseball. So we were practicing the law already. If the baseball came over into our parking lot, we told them it was trespassing to come and get it. They had a people they called shaggers that they hired. One of my other brothers was a shagger. And he was good at catching the ball when it come over, he would beat someone else to him. But anyhow, we made a deal with them. They let us, my brother and I, in free to the baseball park. We could go up in the grandstand. We could look over into our parking lot because we were in the kitty corner right in the back of the grandstand. So that was the system we had. But we did okay. We made quite a few quarters. In those days, like John said, that was good work.
Good job,
That's
Dave.
cool.
Thanks.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great story.
There's some more bat boys.
Three.
Oh, that's your dad's coat?
That was my dad's coat. And Timmy Berg, his dad was the trainer
Yeah.
of the Beavers. Larry Klein is now up there on top. Pat Tabor is my brother-in-law now. He lives down the state and retired from Chemeketa. Larry lives in Wilsonville, and
Which Larry?
Larry Klein.
Oh.
Well, not Larry Shaw. Larry Klein, right there, the second from the top,
Yeah.
with the Portland hat on. He comes to St. Patrick's now. He comes 20 miles every Sunday to come to St. Patrick's Church.
Wow.
Because he went to grade school there too.
Yeah.
Well, we all did.
Shaw didn't though.
I'm sorry.
No, Shaw's from Roosevelt. He's the guy that's sports writers.
I'm in the meeting, honey.
So someone's got to talk about, that's a great,
For some of the guys.
Yes.
In the old days, when the Beavers came to town, the nuns who had the system of education, the nuns in those days had the black outfit with the big, I don't know what it's, cardboard or whatever on the front, but they had the big cord on the side of their uniform that every time they walk up and down the aisles, you behave because you either get the thing slapped across your hands, or if they were up at the blackboard and had the yardstick, they'd come down and whack you on the knuckles if you weren't paying attention. Now, getting back to how we get to be at Bond Street from St. Pat's. If you were a good kid, and we all were good because we knew the Beavers were coming home to play a ball game opening day, they say, there won't be anybody here in school. There's no school on that Tuesday when the Beavers come home, but you bring home a note from your parents. Hell, our parents couldn't even write English in those days. So the bottom line was no school, and then we'd go up to the ballpark, and Rocky, God bless his soul, Rocky Benevento was, like John Bissick mentioned, the surrogate father to all the kids who came up. Whether you went to Chapman, Cooch, you're over in Jefferson High School area, or way over in the Grant, kids just kind of got together. And this becomes such a melting pot of people wanting to be a part of the Portland Beavers that you grew up, you became a ball checker, you worked for nothing pulling canvas, and believe me, that damn canvas, if you ever lost your step when you were underneath, you thought you went to hell. It was dark. I know when I got up, I said, thank God, I'm still around. But the bottom line, Rocky Benevento, he was good to his kids. I never knew that we got paid. You guys that got paid, you must have done something right. But the bottom line, we earned it by being
at Rocky's Cafe.
And you just heard a voice in the background. I want you to get a picture of the guy. Dick, could you kind of put your hand up? Here's a fellow that went to spring training with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he had left field all ready to be taken down to Milwaukee when they were in the spring training. And there happened to be a black fella that came on who could run, who could throw, and his name happened to be Hank Aaron. Now, here's the guy who he displaced, and you know what Hank Aaron did? He broke the color line, he put Sinovic out of a job.
Just bad timing, right?
Very bad timing. But here's a kid who would have been in the Hall of Fame. As luck has it,
he could hit.
he could hit, he could run, he could throw, and he had the good brains upstairs.
Could be the manager.
That's Dick, right? Where is that?
Dick Sinovic, yeah.
Dick, can you tell that story about eating spaghetti dinners, though, at the cafe?
About what?
Eating the spaghetti dinners at Rocky's Cafe.
That's way back.
For pulling the canvas, he paid us off by giving the spaghetti.
Okay.
We have to pay him.
Yeah, he was a cook. He cooked there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was before his time.
Well, see, Vince and Dick are a little bit older than us, and that's the style that was going on. And then later on, when our generation came along, we got a quarter for pulling the canvas.
I have a quick question. So I'm hearing about the color line. So Charles Neal, who lived at Giles Lake Courts, lived here in Slabtown before he moved back to Texas. Was he not able to play on the teams? Or
he was still in grade school.
Okay. Help me out.
They didn't take the grade
Charles
school.
Neal. So he lived in Slabtown, right? So he was just.
He lived in Giles Lake.
He lived in Giles Lake.
But he wasn't even in high school yet.
Okay.
He was pitching softball on a city league team when he was in the 8th grade.
Are you asking if he could come into the stadium?
Well, I just wonder because they're saying, he got displaced by an African American. Here's the only African American I know of in this neighborhood that went on to the World Series.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about baseball as so I just wanted to know.
But I mean, anyone could come into the park.
Charles Neal.
Who did?
He's an African American gentleman who lived in Giles Lake Courts in the 40s.
Right, yeah.
I was thinking when Greg
What was his name?
Charlie Neal?
Charlie Neal was
Oh, yeah.
on the horse. I got to
second
see
baseman
that.
for the.
I've heard
Mets.
about that, but
But he
Tell-
lived here
tell
in
that
grade
story.
school and moved back to Texas before.
Oh, that's why I couldn't identify him.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
yeah, he's got a good story I want
Well,
him to share.
we were just talking about being black. I remember when was it Greg Owens?
Not Greg. What's
No,
his,
not Greg, Jeff.
Jerry.
The
Olympic
Jesse
Jesse
Owens.
Jesse Owens.
Yeah, and he came in. He raced the Palomino
Horse.
Yeah, the
I remember
Palomino. The rider they faced this way, and then he took off this way, and the horse had to turn around. And he beat him.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I
I remember
remember
that. Yeah.
First base line to the.
Yeah.
Was that before a game?
Yeah, it was before a game. Yeah, it was a the draw.
And Rocky didn't mind a horse being out on his infield?
No.
I don't think he was too happy about it. But
Well, there's that old saying, she was only a stableman's daughter, but all the horsemen know her.
We always got one, don't we?
Tim, another version of the neighborhood. The neighborhood, Slaptown, originally was settled by Irish people. Well, the Irish people were here, like Barney here. The Irish people were here for a while, and they kind of upgraded themselves and moved on out to other parts of Portland. And then the Croatian people, immigrants, my parents and all these guys' parents, kind of moved in here. It was a low-end part of town, easier, close to jobs, and easy to live in. So the neighborhood was primarily Croatian. But when we got to be about 17, 18 years old, Rocky organized a team and got us into the City League. And so we started playing our first competitive baseball against other parts of town. And we were known as the Miko 9. And when we would go out to Westmoreland and play, they'd introduce us, they'd say, here comes those Slaptown boys, the Croatians, and Lewis and Clark. We had two guys on the team that were non-Croatian. One was Clyde Lewis, the other guy was Bill Clark.
That's good.
Hey, John, tell them about the signals.
Yeah, the signals.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, and then we never had any signals because we could communicate in our own language in Croatian. And of course, Lewis and Clark grew up with us, so they understood the language. Then we would go out to Westmoreland and we'd play the Nisi Vets, the Japanese team. And it was just a riot because the Japanese were jabbering in Japanese, we were jabbering in Croatian, and the people watching the game were just going bonkers.
That's a good one.
That's funny.
And weren't you the coach at that point?
I was coaching these guys out at the university.
Later on,
Oh,
Vince
that
was
was
our
later.
Use
coach.
the same.
Frank
same
Lolich was our
signals.
coach at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
Frankie, God bless him, just passed away.
Yeah,
He should be remembered in here for
Yes.
being a very quiet guy and did good to keep us guys all in line.
He was good. And a good hockey player.
And a good hockey player.
All right, what do we got next? Okay,
Oh, I know him.
this is one of the more famous Slaptown progeny.
He
Is
made
there,
Vince-
someone
he
here who
made
might
Vince
wanna talk
famous.
about- the man who made Vince famous.
Well, I'll give you with all the guys that grew up around the ballpark. When L.H. Gregory and Don McLeod, before your time, Chuck, they would come up to the ballpark, and L.H. Gregory was a pitcher of renown. He could throw the ball, and it probably took a minute or two before it got to home plate. But we'd always warm him up and say, Jesus, Greg, nice going. Fastball's working today. How about the curveball? Maybe it'd be a little dip in the ball as it come down towards us. But Johnny, one day against Greg, left-hander, got up and they said, never bunt on the guy because his legs are going to fall apart, he's going to tumble over and die of a heart attack. So we were always told, run the ball out if you hit it, and Johnny just happened to hit the ball, went between the shortstop, third baseman, and Gregory says, who in the hell is that pesky little hitter? And Don McLeod was the first baseman at that time. He said, you know, pesky. Johnny, what's your last name? The last name is Paveskevich, capital P-A-V-E-S-K-O-V-I-C-H. He says, hell, that's too long of a name to fit in the box score. Why don't you use the name Pesky? So eventually, Johnny joins the Navy with Ted Williams. And my father doesn't know it, but Johnny, the same day that he and Ted Williams joined the Naval Air at that time, World War II, he changed his name to Johnny Pesky. And when he came home, my father saw him dressed in the Navy blues. Oh, he thought this was great. Because my dad was in the Austria-Hungary Navy way back when. And he always said to his kids, if there's ever a war don't join the Army, don't join the Marines, join the Navy. You've got a roof over your head, and you got 3 meals a day, and you got a bunk that you can sleep in at night. So Johnny always remembered that, so he joined the Navy as a Johnny Pesky. When he came home, my father said, "You look good in your uniform." "Well, Papa, you know, I played a little baseball, and I thought maybe Johnny Pesky would be a good name for the box score." He says, "What's the matter? You no proud of your name, Paulisko?" "Yeah, I'm very proud. That's why I chose Johnny Pesky, because the sports writers thought it was nice to put in the box scores as Pesky." And that's the background on Johnny. And the picture that we have here, Dickie Benevento, you were there. I think you ought to get up and say something.
I went to, I don't think that's his 90th birthday.
I don't remember.
I don't know if that's his 90th, but Vince was referring to me when Johnny invited Vince and I back for his 90th birthday. We're doing a celebration in Fenway Park. And Vince all of a sudden couldn't make it, so I invited my son to go with me. And we go back to where is it? In Boston. So we go back there, and we get royal treatment there. I mean, you can't believe it. Well, I've never been to Fenway, so here they have a little gathering, and we go into Fenway, we march down, and we're on the field. And my son is excited being in Fenway Park. He's calling home on his cell phone. You guys don't know where I am. I'm in Fenway Park on the field. So then, about the 7th inning, the game's ready to start. They announce Johnny, and everybody applauds him, and he hits a little fungo, and then everybody sings happy birthday. And then we go escorted up to the suite where they had everything set up for John. About the 7th inning, his son David grabs my arm and he says, "Come with me." We go in in the suite, and you got a couple of rows of seats. So we go out there, and he says, "Stay focused in center field." And I wish I'd have brought that picture with me. I was going to.
That's a good one.
Oh shoot, I forgot it. But anyway, here we are looking at the big center field jumbotron out there, and it comes and says, "To Dick Benevento, we want to thank you, your father, Rocky Benevento, for giving Johnny Pesky his start into baseball." I mean, 47,000 people had no idea that I was going to be in the big jumbotron out there. So that was a real thrill. I was there for a week. I stayed about 5 days extra with Johnny, and it was just. We go to breakfast every morning. Everybody, geez, we go to dinner every night. Everybody comes over to him, and he never says no. He autographs during breakfast, autographs during dinner. So it was a great trip, Vince. It was a great trip.
Yeah. Well, this is a tribute to Rocky Benevento, because Rocky was so good to all of his kids that Johnny one day said, "Rocky, if I ever make it to the big leagues, I'm going to have you come back." So the Red Sox didn't make it to the World Series, but Johnny took them up to Yankee Stadium. So Rocky's up there looking down on the field before the ball game, and Johnny says, "Rocky, see those guys down there?" And he says, "Yeah, how come there's 8 guys working around home plate, and I'm doing it all by myself when I'm back in Bond Street?" So Johnny said, "Rocky, you're in the big leagues right now." Just so to show you the camaraderie, if it hadn't been for Rocky, I don't know, I think John Bissett hit the nail on the head. The cops, Myron Warren and one other fella, chief of detectives, and they were a strong Catholic background. I want to get that in for the Catholic Church. But they said, "You come from good parents, you got a good person here in Rocky Benevento. We don't ever want to see you down on 3rd and Oak." What in the hell is 3rd and Oak? We didn't know, but that's where the jail was. And when they said jail, oh boy, you become holier than thou. So the bottom line, let's go back once again. Rocky, thank you, and your wife Lena, and you, Dickie Benevento, for taking care of us all farts.
Hey Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
mention the fact about
Wednesday and Saturday to hang around the Poveskoviches. So I'd get together with Johnny. Johnny, Mom's baking bread. Yeah, come on down the house. We'll see what we can do. And he'd always get that outer slice. In other words, the best part of the bread is the two ends. Well, as luck will have it, World War II came on. Billy eventually joined the Air Force, and he's flying over Croatia, which is part of Yugoslavia. We say Croatia, right, Mr. Sinovic? So the bottom line, he's shot down. And here's a black guy. The Croatians have never seen a black guy in their life. And they got the gun pointed at him. And he says, oh God, here I am, they're gonna shoot me. Daj mi jabuku, daj mi kruva. And the terminology that he used was the bread that my mother had says, come on Billy, get some kruva. Kruva means bread. And when the Chetniks or whoever picked them up, Koi ovo. What a good in the this black guy is speaking our language. So they took him underground. My God, they saved my life. Eventually Johnny got to see him, and I think he was working for the FBI. Finally, what goes around comes around.
Yeah, there you go.
But Phil Walden started at St. Pat's with Billy Bell, and you couldn't have found a nicer guy in both Billy and Phil Walden. Phil Walden had two kids that he took care of. Some parents had separated, or one of them had passed away. And the two kids played basketball at Oregon State University. The name were the Tarver brothers.
Harvard?
Harvard. Okay. Now, who's down at the university? The brother-in-law of our president, Obama. So he had black kids that he worked with, and the start once again, Phil Walden, Billy Bell. God bless St. Patrick's Church and School for having a hand paddling the guy, or the nuns going down the aisle with the old yardstick or the cord. Pay attention.
I remember that.
Background once again. And Mickey Lloyd, he actually went to Chapman, that renegade. But he'd come to Mass down in St. Pat's. Loved motorcycles. Almost ran over my sister one day. He said, what the hell are you doing? Well, get off the sidewalk. But the bottom line, I think that the Detroit Tigers told him, get your butt off the sickles. You're our property. And once again, Mickey Lolich became quite famous in the World Series.
Oh boy.
With the Detroit Tigers. So we got a lot of claim to fame of kids that grew up in here in Northwest Portland. And the place where you're at right now, McMenamins, this was our place to come Sunday if there was no ball game at Vaughn Street. We'd go to Mass, come up here, and they let us play pool. There's a kid by the name of Dick Senovic over here again, whose father would let us come in here Sunday around 1 o'clock, and we'd play a little pool, snooker. Try to get a beer? No, no, no. That's how gentle they were in the old days. And some of you old timers probably remember growing up here. Too bad we couldn't have had a few more of them over here, but the publicity doesn't seem to get out to the clientele and the outskirts of the city of Portland. But let's get back to what we're here for.
Yeah, so we're going to go through some of the early photos of the Beavers.
Tom Turner was a beautiful man and kind of white-haired. He was the owner of the Portland Beaver Ball Club, and he had the young fella by the name of Roy Mack, who was the son of Connie Mack, who managed and ran the Philadelphia Athletics. Roy Mack was out here to learn the rudiments of how to be a general manager, eventually to go to the big leagues, to be up there with his father. But at that time, Tom Turner made sure that the kids were taken care of. Be good to the kids. They don't have a chance to have the money, get them into the ballpark somehow, because that's a future kid that'll come back as a paying customer. Tom Turner was ahead of his time and a wonderful guy as far as we were concerned. Now, I happened to be just growing up with Johnny and my older brother Tony. And Tony eventually became a ticket taker, and which gives us another story that we can add later on. But Tom Turner made sure that we had the name of, I think he started with ducks, but then he figured, well, the ducks, they just take to the water, whereas the beavers can be in the water without building something. So that probably was why he took the name Beavers. So enough about Tom Turner and probably the name of Portland Beavers.
So the first.
Took a note to your teacher.
Yeah.
And whether you were living in the Grant district or the Franklin district or wherever, and notes that, like Dickie said, you probably wrote, you could write it yourself and get out. And some
a lot of people did.
And some would come to the games.
I remember Father Mitchell would show up every once in a while from St. Pat's.
Oh, yeah.
He'd look for who wrote a note and who didn't, and if he
that
didn't,
right?
he'd grab me by the ear.
Remind me to tell you a story about him after a while.
All right, so here's a great shot, aerial shot, again with the crowd on the field.
Would you want a new field and not have to deal with that scenario? I mean, would you
Well,
like
I think
look back and say,
each generation has its own traditions and culture and things happen, but in Northwest Portland, we used to have a football game on Thanksgiving Day called the Govno Bowl. And I'll explain what that means later. But anyway, it was a tradition in the neighborhood. And we would have no pads, no football equipment at all. It was just, you know, just ourselves. And it would inevitably be muddy and wet. And we would go out there for 2 or 3 hours and bang each other up. And we'd come home after, and we'd have a lot of fun. It was tradition. We'd come home and my parents would look at me, with my brother and I, just full of mud and dirty and tired, and think, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you out of your mind? How can that be fun? I said, well, it is fun. It's just a tradition that went on in the neighborhood for many years.
Hey, Tony?
Well, Govno is a Croatian word for feces. And that's why it just got that name, because of the mud.
Was this in the field behind St. Pat's or Wallace?
No, it's a chapel.
It's Wallace Park. Yeah.
Wallace Park, yeah, Wallace Park.
Because I remember playing in that field behind St. Pat's.
Oh, yeah. No, this was at Wallace Park, a little bigger field.
Duking out with people. And he was good to his kids. He'd have smokers down at St. Pat's and wanted you to learn how to protect yourself. You know, how to bob and weave and throw a punch. Well, they took the kids out to the racetrack where the dogs were running, and some guy ran into the kid, or the kid ran into him, and they gave him a sharp elbow. And, you know, priest, Father Mitchell, says, "What'd you do that for? You're just a kid." He said, "Oh, you got in my way. What the hell are you going to do?" Bingo! And he dropped the guy right in his
Sounds
track.
just like him, too.
Yeah. And Father says, "Come on, get up. Is there something wrong?" You probably tripped. But anyhow, God bless Father Mitchell.
Amen for that.
He was that kind of a guy, and it was Father Mitchell who really kept us going with all the kids that have graduated from here, and once they're going through Benevento, Rocky Benevento. There's so many stories that have come up from Slabtown. I'm glad that you, Tim Hiltz, has put this all on view. Pretty cool.
So this is a kind of a lost chapter. No, it's actually, does anyone know who that is? 1923, or 22, I think.
We're sure. Is that for some guy to either move,
Oh, yeah.
maybe die?
You inherited it.
Yeah, you inherited it. So Vince Sullivan was a bat boy, and he might be, well, I don't know. You got one of the Minnow brothers
Yeah,
here.
Joe Minto.
Okay. Minnow lived right across the street, and eventually worked for Blitz Weinhardt, big brewery, which is another good story that we can all relate to. But as a bat boy, you wanted to be doing something. And Rocky, if you liked you, okay, can you pick up a bat? Can you go shag balls as they come back off the roof and shine them up and put them back in. In those days, you waited for the ball to go in the stands to come back on, not like today where they throw the balls up there. How many baseballs do they use in a ball game? Anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 dozen in a ball game. In the old days, there was a kid by the name of Eddie Taylor, who was the assistant manager. He'd always count the balls in the ball bag and probably have 30 of them. And if there were any on the roof, he'd say, Rocky, I'm missing 10 balls, they're probably up on the roof, or the Connies would probably have them across the street where they hung on to them. And sometimes the guy wanted to go to a ball game, hey, you got any balls? Yeah, 50 cents, here's a ball. Okay. That's the way we operated. We kept ourselves going, and the background, once again, you waited for some guy to move out, then you become a bat boy, then you become an assistant clubhouse boy, and you became the official clubhouse boy, which gives us to another story in the hockey season. The old Portland Buckaroos, which we eventually will probably get to that in there.
Well, no,
right.
That's another story.
That's another story
If you
another
walk
time.
outside in the parking lot, there's exhibits of old Slabtown photos, and there's a number of buckaroos and rosebuds in the earlier days.
That's the one I was thinking
At
of.
the
That's
high
the one
school.
on 21st or whatever it was.
21st and Marshall. Yeah.
McMenamins was nice enough to pick up Dick Sinovic and myself and take us down to Salem, Kaiser to watch the A-ball down there. And Tommy Troublehorn, who used to manage the Milwaukee Brewers, the Chicago Cubs, then once again, when you don't win, you are cut off at the pants. But he's found a job working for the San Francisco Giants. And he's had good luck with young kids that have gone up to the big league, and he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame in another week and a half. But getting back to this photo, look at the good-looking legs that you see of these ball players. Today, you don't know whether the guy's got a shank of a leg or he's got some muscle, because everybody in the big leagues is wearing those pajama bottoms. I'm a leg man myself, and I like to look at legs, and this is a pretty good picture of what the guys look like. Those are legs that have some ability to hit a ball and to run. And here up in the upper left, I want to mention this guy right here, Bill Posdell. Oh, I'll tell you, when Johnny and I were clubhouse boy and bat boy, we'd always get out and shag in the outfield, or Johnny would be working in the infield, and we'd kind of put on a couple of things that looked like a uniform. But Posdell was a guy who was in the Navy, and one of these kinds of guys that if you ever did something, he'd knock you right on your butt. We learned from him, pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, he didn't kick you in the back. He'd knock you on your fanny and then pick you up and say, kid, don't you ever do that again. But my brother and I got knocked down a few times, and we remember Bill Posdell as one of the guys who would say, listen and learn. And if you use that term today, they're probably going to get rid of you as a teacher, because you have to have respect for the young kids. Hey, Orlando! But that's a good picture right there.
Yep.
To what the Carney family did. Mr. Carney was one of those kinds of fellows that would talk like a Father Mitchell. You're here to learn, pay attention. And we never paid a dime to get on the streetcars in those days. That was a story that, I'm sorry to say it, but we got on for free. One guy, we'd gather our pennies and have a guy get a dime, and he would get on the streetcar, and we'd meet him at certain places as the streetcar would come up. We wouldn't go through the front door, he'd open up the back door. By the time we got to the place where we were to play a ball game, football or baseball, conductor, there's 15 guys. Looked to see how much money he had.
10 cents in the hopper.
In the old days, the streetcars had, what was it, a cow thing on the back end? Or,
You call it a cow kick.
cow catcher.
Yeah.
Didn't cow catch. They had all of us guys from Slabtown. We knew that if we had to get home, get on the back of the streetcar, and the admission was free, but lock yourself. Thank you.
So your comment reminded me that the state.
Oh, the Signal Oil was sponsored for him, but other than that,
I
I
thought
just
you
enjoyed
told me about it. Didn't he have that for a while? Or maybe it took the place of his truck or something?
Well, he used to drag it with the Model T Ford that Johnny Bessick used to drive around. Remember, John?
Didn't he drive that up from California?
Yeah. He drove it up from San Jose.
Yeah.
And then he drove